After a while, our hero goes out where there is a black market late at night. And then he goes to that market, and there some people are talking among themselves that, damn it, is this real or fake? At this price you are asking, is this real or fake? And then he tells that this is just rubbish. Put it down. And then he tells that it was dug out from Ma Wang yesterday. It is the childhood war helmet of the first emperor. And then our hero looks at it and says, hey, this is very cheap, only 300 yuan. After this, our hero's eyes fall on the person who cheated him in his previous life, along with Kai Jinka. He is arguing with the shopkeeper, and he says, because it is the highest bracelet worth 2 lakhs. This is clearly fake. Sell it to me for rupee 300. Still, you will make a good profit. If the deal is acceptable, then finalize the deal or leave it. And then he replies, if not, then I am leaving. The shopkeeper says, okay, don't shout. This bracelet is yours. Our hero looks at him and thinks to himself, Lu Suxing is a bastard, and he has come to the black market to buy a fake jade bracelet. And Kai Jing is the bitch who cheated me in my previous life, and she is dumb. She can be cheated by this garbage too. Then suddenly he notices some weapons, and then he gets happy to see it and says, this is what I wanted. And then he goes to that person and asks, do you have something hard? The shopkeeper replies by showing his hand. This is a knife which is not very sharp. If you want hard, then you can buy it and wear it yourself. If you think so, you can add 1 more stick to it. Our hero looks at him seriously and says, none of these are hard enough. I need something stronger. And then he replies angrily, what do you mean, sir? Have you come here to cause trouble? Then suddenly his mobile starts ringing, and then he takes out his mobile and sees that 2,000 yuan has been deposited in his account. He gets very surprised to see this, who has deposited so many yuan in my account. And then he looks at our hero. Our hero says smilingly, don't get too excited. I have deposited 2,000 yuan in your account, and I am serious about shopping. After this, the shopkeeper understands. And then he tells the other person, I am coming in a little while, till then you take care of my shop. And then he signals our hero to go ahead and says it is not convenient to talk outside. Sir, come here to me. And then he takes him to a room. So there he shows him a gun. And says, boss, we have a homemade gun which is good for killing chickens. It costs 2,000 yuan, and it is very cheap too, and it fires steel ball bullets. What do you think about buying this? Our hero replies, no, I want something tougher. The shopkeeper gets surprised to see this. Then he shows him another gun, which is called a replica revolver. It is almost as much as an active-duty handgun. And he tells that it costs 5,000. It fires about 9 bullets. And each bullet is 5 yen, and then he asks, how is this deal for you? Our hero gets angry and says, this is not right, but I have paid you 200,000 yen. Don't show me this junk, show me something better. Then he is surprised that he has already made the prepayment. Our hero looks at him very seriously and says, I want to buy weapons worth 2 million. The shopkeeper is surprised to hear this, and he smiles and replies, who are you, sir? Elder brother, you have come to me for such a big order. I have never taken such a big order before. Our hero says, I did not handle these small matters earlier. My subordinates used to handle them. There have been some changes recently, and then he says, don't be too curious. Just tell me whether you can do it or not. And then he immediately shows his hand to our hero and says, sir, wait a moment. I will show you something else, and then he opens a gate and signals someone to come and says, sir, you have found the right person. And then he comes close to our hero and softly says in his ear, I can handle it. Write a list, and I will give you an address. Day after tomorrow at midnight, you have to go there to complete the transaction. And you have to keep cash with you. After this, our hero comes out, and then he says, be careful with your step. And then he starts thinking. After some time, the same person again comes in front of our hero and says, did not expect to see you in the black market. No wonder you are spending so much lately. And why ignore Jin? It seems that your family has some heirlooms. And then he goes close to our hero and looks at him very contemptuously and says, what is this? Have you done a lot of marketing lately? Or are you lying? Trying to live comfortably by selling everything? Our hero doesn't answer him at all and thinks to himself, okay, this is the right time to try out your skills. And then he uses the mind's eye skill at the same time. The mind's eye skill is a skill that identifies your enemy's thinking. And then he uses it at the same time on Lee Suxing. And then he thinks to himself, this should be very useful as Mary expected. And then he points his finger at her and says, you are really lying. So did you give Kai Jin this second-hand stuff and call her to the bed to fuck? I understand she is just my second-hand stuff. Only worth this. Lee gets happy hearing this. And then he tells him, the girl you are calling to bed is my second-hand mall. Hearing this, Lee Suxing gets very angry, and then he starts abusing him. Motherfucker, what did you say? Do you know the consequences of this? After this, the shopkeeper comes close to our hero and says, big brother, do you know him? And then he tells him, yes, I know him. He is like my enemy. And then he starts leaving from there. The shopkeeper says, I understood, big brother, go, do your work. I will teach him a lesson. And then he says, don't kill him. I have other plans for his life. After this, the shopkeeper along with all his companions plans to kill Lily and stands in front of him. Lai says, what are you doing? I am warning you. Don't kill me. And then he says, big brother, let's talk about this. And then he attacks Lily at the same time and throws him on the ground. Lai thinks in his mind, Jiang, I know all this is happening because of your order. Now you wait. I will not leave you. 2 days later at midnight, our hero goes to the place mentioned by the shopkeeper. And there are carts full of weapons. The system is informed. The tasks are ready for war. System points are added 10, and the current score is 20. And then he sees the box inside which the guns were kept. The system informs about the bonus reward, and the reward is a physical enhancement potion of 2%. Our hero raises his hand at the same time, and he receives an injection. And he says, I have received an additional physical enhancement potion as a bonus. And he looks at it carefully and says even a +2 1 is equal to double the one present in the store. And then he picks up the injection at the same time and puts it in his hand. His eyes start shining. Then he says, this is the average physical score of 5 for an adult male. Adding these 2 points increases the strength by 40%, because this is the case. And then he looks in the system. He finds out that there is a physical enhancement potion of 20% and 2 points of survival in the system store. And he says we can maximize this benefit as well. Then suddenly he sees fire burning in his body, and he thinks in his mind that 8 points in physical is 60% more than an average person. Time to find the target for strength test. After this his eyes go up some sacks, and after seeing it he says I understood. And then he picks up a rod from there, and bends it by kicking it. The rod falls far away. And seeing this he starts laughing, says, as expected, with my current strength, even with bare hands, I am not an easy fight. And I will not be afraid against zombies in the early apocalypse. And then he looks at those weapons and thinks to himself that these weapons shouldn't take up too much space. It's better to keep them in the local ring for safety. And then he activates his ring skill at the same time. And then he thinks to himself that the day after tomorrow is the first day of the apocalypse. What else do I need to do? Then suddenly he thinks of the old man who bought his house. And he said, honestly, my granddaughter needs to transfer school. And we need a house to live in urgently. And he says, I've been roaming around this area for several days, and only your house is for sale. Mr. Jiang, please don't back down. Our hero becomes a little sad thinking about this. But after thinking about this, our hero says, after experiencing the life, death, and betrayal of the apocalypse, it's also hard to completely ignore the plight of misfortune. And then he starts walking out of there, and he says, Okay, I will send some necessary supplies for the apocalypse. Whether you survive long-term or not, it will depend on you here. And consider this as a prepayment for providing funds for my apocalypse plan. The next day our hero goes in his car to the house of the person to whom he had sold his house. And then he gets out of the car and thinks, "Thank God for GPS. Who else would have found a place like this?" He climbs up the stairs to the top floor. And then he thinks to himself that it seems like this old man is not really rich. He is renting such a cheap place, and he also lives on the top floor. And then he reaches outside her house and knocks on her door. And then he looks at his ring and says, "But I have to wait for 1 minute. Because it will be better if I remove my stuff which I have brought with me, otherwise it will be difficult to explain later." And then he removes all the stuff with the help of his skill, and goes near the door and knocks the door. From inside the old man says, "I am coming, just wait a minute." And then he opens the door. And he thinks the landlord has come to collect the rent because his eyes were closed at that time. And he says about the rent, "I promise to pay it next week." And as soon as he opens his eyes, Jiang is standing in front of him. The old man is surprised to see him, as he had no idea why he came to his house, and then he asks, "Hey, what's wrong, Mr. Jiang? Are you here?" And then he sees all the boxes, and he asks surprised, "Mr. Jiang, what are you doing here, and what kind of stuff is this?" Our hero replies, "I will explain to you later, but first help me take these boxes inside before the neighbors see them. Otherwise, if someone sees these things, there will definitely be a ruckus." And after a while our hero puts all the things inside. The old man says, "You young people really have a lot of energy, and you put all these things inside so quickly. And you guys are not even out of breath." Our hero looks at him, replies, "The room is nice, and the front door is quite strong, isn't it?" And then our hero says to the old man, "Hey old man, listen carefully to what I am going to tell you. This supply can last for about 6 months if used wisely. And the destruction of this world will begin from tomorrow." The old man says, "What happened, Mr. Jiang? Is there some wrong stuff in it, which you cannot keep in your house? Anyway, we will shift to your house after a month." Then suddenly our hero's eyes fall on that frame, and he is immediately surprised to see it. Our hero looks at that photo, in which there is a picture of this girl, and he remembers his past life, that this is Shine. And then he takes that photo in his hand at the same time and asks, "Old man, is this your granddaughter? And her name is Sheng." Hearing this, the old man is surprised that how does he know the name of his granddaughter? How does he know her? And then the old man says, "I don't remember the name, but..." And then he replies that she will come back home and go to school. Once the house transfer is complete, we can transfer her school as well. And after this, the paperwork will be almost done. Our protagonist thinks about his old life. That in the past life, during the apocalypse, this girl was sitting sad. And she says, "It's all my fault. I ruined my grandfather." And then he thinks to himself, "I remember about my old life. Before the apocalypse," said saying that her grandfather had risked everything to save her, and died a great death. At that time she had entered high school. Although he managed to save her, he lost his life in the process. And then he puts that photo back in its place at the same time, and says, "You regret this. In this life, I will make up for it." Our hero takes pity on the old man, and then he gets very serious. He looks at the old man and says, "Old man, you will not be living in my house anymore." The old man is shocked to hear this, and says, "Mr. Jiang, you are not going to back down. What made you go back on your word? How could you do this to me?" And then, at the same time, he puts his hand on the old man's shoulder and says, "Let me cancel the deal. Because from tomorrow this world will become a living hell. Neither my house nor yours will be safe. I am telling you this so that you don't have false hopes. Your granddaughter will not be able to get her school registration done, so it doesn't matter whether you stay in my house or not. And then he very calmly explains to them, "Come with me to Shang San's school and bring her. I will arrange a safe new place for both of you." Hearing this, the old man could not understand anything. He looked at him in surprise. He started sweating, and he said, "Mr. Jiang, what are you talking about? I am not able to understand a single thing you say." Our hero is unable to make the old man understand, and then he thinks to himself, "This man is very old and also very naive. He will not understand. How do I make him understand?" And then at the same time he looks at his ring and says, "Do you know what famine is?" The old man replies, "Yes, I know." And then he says, "You can imagine how sad and terrible life is during a famine. Can't you imagine?" The old man replies, "I can imagine, but how can there be a famine in peaceful times?" And then he uses the magic of his ring at the same time. Suddenly all the boxes kept their disappear. The old man is surprised to see this, and says, "Hey, where did all these things disappear, Mr. Jiang?" And he asks, "Mr. Jiang, what kind of magic is this? I don't understand anything." Our hero decides at the same time that now I have to explain everything to the old man straight. Our hero replies, "I have superpowers and I can also see the future. If you want to live and if you want Sign to stay alive, then from now on you have to do what I say." And then he asks, "Where is Sang's school? To save her we have to go to her school first." And then he gets in his car at the same time, and both of them go to Sang's school. Our hero drives very fast, and in no time they reach there, and stops his car in front of the school. And then he asks, "Old man, do you know which class Sang studies in, and where can I find her?" The old man says, "Yes, I know." Our hero says, "Then hurry up, we have to catch him first." On the other side we see some girls and boys fighting with each other. And then this girl slaps this girl hard and says, "Bitch. I don't understand why you are after Xiao Chen, you have to stop talking to him." The girl's face turns red, and then she says, "I told him that I don't want to live with him. He is the one who forces himself on me and always tries to talk to me." Hearing this, she gets angry and kicks the girl hard, and says, "I haven't asked you to make excuses, don't lie." And then she grabs the girl's hair at the same time and starts misbehaving with her. And she says, "What do you mean? Should I believe you? That Xiao Chen is clinging to you and you are rejecting him." The girl starts teasing him a lot. Then suddenly the girl's eyes fall on our hero, and she says, "Hey, wait a minute, maybe someone is coming here to save her." The girls look at him and ask him, "Hey, is this your grandfather?" The girl is actually Sheng, and looking at the grandfather says, "Grandpa, why are you here?" The grandfather gets very angry seeing this and points his finger and says, "Hey girls, why are you teasing my granddaughter?" Our hero also gets angry seeing this. Then suddenly the friends of those girls stand in front of the old man and take out knives and start threatening him. And they say, "Step back, old man, this is a fight between young men. If an old man like you interferes, then it will not be good for her." But the old man at the same time confronts all those boys and starts fighting, and says, "You are a small child. Have your parents taught you these manners? A classmate should not be threatened like this. You are doing very wrong here." Then suddenly this boy attacks the old man with that stick, and says, "Old bastard, go and leave her." Then suddenly our hero comes, and then he catches their stick with his hand, and says, "At such a young age you are learning to cheat? This won't end well for you." And then these boys say, "Where did this poor old fool come from?" She looks at the girl and says, "Hey, bitch, I didn't know you had a brother." Our hero springs into action at that moment, and then he kicks that boy hard at the same time, and then that boy goes away and falls on the ground. Seeing this, all these people think in their mind, "Fucker, it seems he has taken training from somewhere." And then these people make a plan. Let's all attack him together. Our hero looks at them seriously. These two boys surround him from both sides, and then he attacks him from behind. Our hero immediately bends down and escapes their attack. And then he thinks in his mind that after increasing his physical abilities, my processes have also become faster. And then at the same time he catches that boy from behind, and picks him up and throws him on the ground. Meanwhile, that boy's condition worsens, and then suddenly, this boy comes in front of him with a knife. But our hero catches his hand and takes him forward and kicks his leg, and he snatches the knife from him. That boy falls on the ground. Now the condition of both the boys had worsened. And then our hero moves towards those girls. The girls get scared seeing him and say, "Hey, what do you want to do? Will you kill us too?" Friends, this chapter ends here. Don't forget to like the video to see the next chapter. I am happy to tell you that now our YouTube family is going to be 4,000. Friends, you can also rate us for this story out of 10 so that we can make even better videos for you. See you in the next chapter. Till then, take care of yourself and your family.